7 signs you're one of the few who are assisted by the demonic counsel. There are truths we avoid because they shake the foundation of how we think life should work. We are taught from childhood to seek protection from angels, to hope for blessings from the heavens, to imagine that anything called demonic must be purely destructive. But what if I told you that this story is incomplete? What if you knew that some of the most powerful transformations in human history did not come from divine comfort, but from shadowed trials guided by what I call the demonic counsel? And what if you realized that you, right now, might be one of the rare few who are being assisted by them? This isn't assistance in the way you want. It's not gentle. It doesn't hand you gifts wrapped in silver paper. It doesn't soothe you. The counsel doesn't come to flatter you, it comes to forge you. The demonic counsel is not an assembly of random spirits looking to torment for fun. It is a council of intelligence, a collective of shadow forces whose job is to test, to strip, to refine, and to awaken through fire what could never be awakened through peace. If you've been marked as one of the few under their gaze, your life will carry signs that others can't mistake.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first sign is that your life feels heavier than most people's. Not just harder, but heavier, as though unseen hands place stones in your backpack since birth. You've noticed that things which come easily to others, belonging, stability, even joy, seem to require 10 times the effort for you. You probably asked yourself at some point, why me? Why do I always face storms when others seem to live in sunlight? That heaviness is not punishment, it is deliberate weight training. The demonic counsel does not select people who are fragile, it selects those who can be bent without breaking, and those who can walk through fire and come out carrying wisdom for others. The second sign is that you attract extremes. Look at your relationships, your opportunities, your crises. They are rarely average. They are either intensely beautiful or catastrophically destructive. You don't live in mild tones, you live in extremes of passion, betrayal, breakthroughs, and breakdowns. This is because the counsel doesn't waste time teaching through mediocrity, but it uses shockwaves, intensity, polarity. And it drops you into love that feels like destiny, then strips it away to teach you detachment. It grants you sudden abundance, then pulls it out to test your discipline. These extremes are not random, they are engineered initiations. The third sign is that you often feel watched, not in a paranoid way, but in a deep, unsettling awareness that eyes beyond this world are fixed on you. When you walk into certain rooms, you sense an invisible presence. When you dream, you feel as though your soul is being evaluated. This isn't your imagination. The counsel watches its chosen closely, because the test isn't only in what happens to you, it's in how you respond. Do you grow bitter or stronger? Do you collapse or evolve? That constant gaze forces you into a kind of spiritual accountability most people never know. The fourth sign is destruction that leads to revelation. You've experienced seasons where your life fell apart so completely that you thought you were cursed. Jobs lost, relationships destroyed, health shaken, reputation attacked. At first glance, it looks like cruelty. But think back what emerged after those destructions. Did you find new paths, new power, a new version of yourself that you would never have uncovered if the old life hadn't been torn down? This is the counsel's way. It dismantles your false structures so that you cannot keep living in illusions. The destruction is the lesson, and the revelation is the reward. The fifth sign is temptation of a different kind. The demonic counsel does not simply throw suffering at you, it also offers shortcuts. You may find yourself tested with opportunities that glitter but don't align with your soul. You'll be offered positions of influence if you compromise your truth, love if you betray your integrity, success if you abandon your authenticity. And in those moments, it feels almost impossible to say no. Why? Because these offers are tailored for your exact wounds. The counsel knows the cracks in your soul and tests them ruthlessly. But if you resist, you ascend. If you fall, you learn. Either way, you grow. The sixth sign is that you carry wisdom beyond your years, but it was born through pain. People may tell you, you're so mature for your age, or you speak with depth. What they don't realize is that your wisdom is not an accident. It is the byproduct of surviving things most people would never recover from. This is what makes you dangerous in the best way possible. You cannot be fooled by illusions anymore. You've seen the machinery of suffering, and because of that, you know how to guide others through their own. The seventh sign is that you are constantly pushed toward transformation. While others can stay the same for decades, you can't. If you resist growth, life will push you harder. If you cling to comfort, life will tear it away. You are not allowed to stagnate. Every time you try to sit still, the counsel sends a storm to force you forward. It's exhausting, yes, but it is also your destiny. You are not here to repeat cycles, you are here to break them. Now, let me ask you, do you see these patterns in your own story? Do you see how your heaviest burdens birthed your strongest qualities? Do you see how your suffering sharpened you into someone others looked to for answers? Can you recognize that what you thought was random cruelty might have been deliberate sculpting? If you feel this truth in your bones, then you already know you are one of the rare few who walk with the demonic counsel behind you. And here's the terrifying beauty. Their assistance is not to enslave you, but to forge you into someone unshakable. They are not your enemies in disguise, they are your initiators. And the deeper question we now face is this: why you? Why does the council select only a few to refine this way? And what cosmic role do you play in the balance of light and dark? The initiation protocol, how you align, negotiate, and rise with the demonic council. If the council's presence feels like both a trial and a tuition, then part 3 is the manual you wish you'd been handed at birth. The first thing to understand is this: assistance from shadowed intelligences is not like hiring a helper. It's a contractual initiation that works two ways. They refine you. You learn the craft of translating their pressure into focused power without becoming their puppet. The initiation protocol begins with radical self-honesty. Sit with a notebook and catalog the exact patterns that have accompanied their help, which crises repeat, which temptations arrive at your weakest hours, which relationships mirror your deepest wounds. Naming is not drama, it's strategic reconnaissance. When you have a map of the terrain the council uses, you stop reacting and start negotiating. You must learn to ask questions of your own soul. What do I actually want to become? What would I refuse, even if promised glory? These boundary lines become your clauses in the unwritten contract. Next, cultivate ritualized sovereignty. The council respects precision. When you respond to their tests with improvisation, you give them leverage. When you respond with ritual, you create constraints. This doesn't require altar-bling or elaborate ceremonies. Practical rituals are enough. A morning 5-minute grounded breath to realign intention, a nightly 2-line inventory of where you ceded power, a weekly boundary audit where you review one relationship and adjust access. Rituals are small legal acts that rewrite your nervous system. They tell the unseen, this field is claimed, approach with terms. Do these consistently, and the ambassadorship shifts from hunting you to offering calibrated pressure that, if negotiated well, it becomes useful heat for growth rather than wildfire for destruction. There is an ethical economy to this assistance. You must become fluent in reciprocity. The council will always demand payment because shadow runs on exchange. The payment is seldom gold, it's integrity, focus, and the willingness to transmute personal pain into public medicine. Decide ahead of time, what will you contribute back to the world from every wound? Will you write, teach, hold space, or build structures that prevent the same suffering in others? When your suffering is converted into service, the council's pressure becomes catalytic rather than corrosive. You are not bartering your soul for advantage, you are reframing the cost into a sanctified obligation that delivers social value. Practical safety protocols matter. Build a triage team of at least 3 people, 1 elder who will tell you truth even when it hurts, 1 practical peer who monitors your boundaries, and 1 healer therapist who helps reset your nervous system. Pay them, schedule them, make them non-negotiable. The council exploits lone wolves, collective scaffolding dissolves their leverage. Also create immediate anti-manipulation habits, a 48-hour rule before major decisions, a written ledger of recurring offers with consequences, and a no secrets policy for deals that affect your integrity. These are not bureaucratic annoyances, they are immune system interventions. Learn shadow alchemy as craft, not mystique. When a temptation appears, instead of condemning yourself for desire, interrogate the offer. Where does it originate? Who benefits? What will I lose in surrendering my claws? Then convert the impulse into art, a poem, a recorded talk, a workshop. Publicize the raw lesson within 30 days. The council hates transparency, they thrive on privatized compromise. When you make your inner transactions public and useful, you shrink their domain. Finally, cultivate the inner posture of a negotiator rather than a victim. Stand in the paradox. You're being refined by pressure you did not ask for, yet you remain the author of how that pressure writes you. Use breath to slow down, naming to clarify, ritual to claim terms, community to enforce accountability, and service to transmute cost into legacy. Ask yourself now, if the council is assisting your ascent, what clause will you add to the contract that ensures you never become the instrument of harm? Answer that question honestly, write it down, and make it the first line of your vow. The legacy clause, how to use the demonic council's pressure to build an unbreakable, generous destiny. We arrive now at the place everyone secretly fears and secretly longs for. What do you build after the council has finished teaching you? The initiation, the negotiations, the rituals, all of it leads to one inevitable demand. You must convert your crucible into a construct that outlives you. The demonic council assists not to make you a spectacle, but to shape an agent of transformation. If you have tolerated extremes, resisted temptation, and converted your wounds into service, then your final task is to design your legacy clause, the practical, ethical, and spiritual terms by which your life's work multiplies goodness and starves the shadow that made you. This is not about ego, it's about architecture. You are asked to become a steward of systems that protect future initiates from needless suffering and that channel the pressure you received into widespread healing. Begin with infrastructure. Build simple, modular systems that do not depend solely on your charisma. Design a 3-tier curriculum from your learnings, one for individuals, tools to survive and transform, one for collectives, practices to build resilient communities, and one for institutions, policies that prevent exploitation. Turn your lessons into templates, boundary maps, crisis triage flows, public restitution protocols, fatigue management schedules. Teach these in short, repeatable formats: videos, one-page guides, 20-minute workshops, so that the wisdom scales. The demonic council's pressure taught you craft. Now convert that craft into reproducible skill. Systems survive leaders, templates save souls. Next, create safety nets. Initiation that is uncontained becomes trauma for the next generation. So institute safeguards in every offering, mandatory triage support, rotating elders for accountability, and enforceable rest breaks. Make access to help non-negotiable. No one moves forward alone. This is practical compassion. When people are held by structures, they can take risks without being devoured by predators who prey on loneliness. Your legacy will not be flashy, it will be preventative. It will save people from seasons you had to survive without a net. That is radical service. Then, radicalize reciprocity. Your contract with the council showed you that shadow trades on exchange. Flip that currency. For every opportunity you receive, commit to funding, mentoring, or saving one person from the same pain that shaped you. Create a public ledger where you log acts of restitution or redistribution, little acts that add up. When your pain becomes a pipeline of support, the council's leverage diminishes, because power is no longer concentrated in secrecy but diffused in generosity. Ask yourself daily, who benefits from my suffering if I keep it private, and who is served if I make it public in service? Choose the latter. Public transparency is next. You were taught that secrecy is the ambassador's favorite soil. So make light your policy. Share failures as openly as wins. Publish your mistakes, the manipulations you refused, the temptations you almost took, and the repairs you made. This is humiliation turned holy. It immunizes others by showing what real repair looks like. But vulnerability without structure is chaos. Vulnerability with frameworks becomes training. Your candid archives will become a manual for those who follow, and the council's ability to hide will be reduced by the glow of truth. We teach the art of negotiated power. Leadership taught through wounds often swings between martyrdom and dominance. Instead, instruct people in the discipline of covenant leadership, take responsibility for harms, craft public restitution, rotate authority, and design exit ramps. Embed anti-corruption measures at every level, rotating councils, transparent budgets, and written vows. The demonic council's oldest tactic is entropy. Your countermeasure is governance. Good structures are sanctified armor. Finally, hold a personal covenant to the future. This is the legal poetic clause you will sign in private and read each year, a vow that you will not weaponize pain, that you will prioritize restoration over revenge, that you will build systems that outlast you, and that you will die trying to give what you received as pressure into living medicine for others. Write it in your blood, metaphorically inscribe it into daily practice, morning grounding, weekly audits, quarterly restitution, annual public report. This vow is both spiritual discipline and governance document, but it keeps you honest when the council's pressure nudges towards seduction. Let me ask you plainly, when the dust of your trials settles, do you want to be remembered as a scarred king clutching trophies, or as an architect who turned assault into armor for 1,000 lives? The demonic council's assistance is radical, but it is not end in itself. It is tuition. The diploma you earn is the ability to convert personal torment into collective dignity. But if you accept that, then begin now. Draft one template from your pain, form one protective covenant for a friend, and publish one humble failure that taught you more than your victories ever did. Small acts compound. Structures birth movements. And your legacy clause will be the final, sacred negotiation you make with the forces that raised you, no longer a debtor to shadow, but a benefactor of light. The final seal, why the demonic council's shadow becomes the proof of your unbreakable light. But there comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when you realize the demonic council was never just following you, never just testing you, but never just assisting you. They were watching to see if you could endure the unbearable weight of paradox. Because the ultimate paradox is this: the very shadows that haunted you are the same forces that prove the magnitude of your light. But without their pressure, you would never have been sculpted into someone unbending, unshakable, and dangerous to the illusions of this world. And this is where your final seal is pressed upon you, not by them, but by your own willingness to integrate everything without fear. The seal happens when you no longer crave their departure. You stop praying for ease and begin standing in acceptance. Yes, I was chosen. Yes, I was shadowed. Yes, I was tested by darkness. And yes, but I will still turn it all into a crown of fire. The council thrives on your resistance, but when you transmute resistance into reverence, not worship, but reverence for the exact process that forged you, you strip them of their last bargaining chip, and you become sovereign. They can press you, but they can't possess you. They can stalk you, but they can't steer you. That's the final seal, realizing you are no longer defined by their influence, but by your freedom to use even their interference as raw material for transcendence. But let's get practical. How does one live with this seal? It starts with embodying paradox daily. When people betray you, you don't collapse into despair. You also don't harden into bitterness, but you acknowledge the betrayal as a test. Then you turn it into an opportunity to grow sharper boundaries and deeper compassion simultaneously. When opportunities glitter too brightly, you pause and ask, what is the hidden cost? And only proceed when you've translated seduction into sober choice. This becomes your spiritual athleticism, the ability to hold light and shadow together without splitting, without denial, without panic. At this stage, the signs of your chosenness grow unmistakable. People will fear you without knowing why. They'll sense an intensity in your eyes, a silence in your presence, as though you've walked into the underworld and returned with keys no one dares to touch. Some will accuse you of being too dark, too strange, too intense. Others will idolize you. Both are distortions. The truth is simpler. You are whole, and wholeness always unsettles those addicted to half-truths. That unsettling quality is proof you carry the seal. The council has done its work. You are no longer merely human in the ordinary sense. You are a threshold being. And here's the final wisdom. Your legacy isn't just what you build. It's the energy you leave imprinted in the world. Every time you refuse to collapse, refuse to be bought, refuse to weaponize your pain, you create ripples that others can walk on. You become a hidden architect of strength in people you may never meet. And the council, they hate that more than anything. because they never intended for you to turn their pressure into pathways for others. That's your rebellion, your victory, your true seal, not conquering them, but converting them into unwilling allies in your ascension. So I ask you now the deepest question of all. When you reach the end of your days, do you want your story to be remembered as one who survived the torment, or as one who transformed torment into treasure? The difference lies in whether you accept the final seal. Because the 7 signs, the assistance, the negotiations, the legacy, all of it converges here into the choice to rise, not despite the demonic counsel, but because of them. That's the secret few ever understand. That's the mark that cannot be faked. That's the seal that makes you untouchable. This is the end of the teaching, but for you, it is only the beginning.